The next one is already a reoccurring guest. It's Cedric. Now is the head from Roche. Last time he had the head from Novartis. And Cedric knows a thing or two about convincing or not convincing people. And I'm very much looking forward to hear the story from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. So, harnessing digital complexity and enabling AI, I hijacked a bit the session to talk more about people at the end, because I think this is one of the main lessons that I've learned. This is a picture of me, basically, as a Sisyphus, trying to push a new ways of working, graph-based of working, system thinking ways of working in a farm organization for 8 years. And inside this semantic sphere or domain that we try to create, now you have to constrain those LLMs so that they don't hallucinate too much. There is no disclaimer slide, so I'll say it orally that this is only my opinion and not the one of my employer. I'm going to go via contextualization, my understanding of it, how we can harness this digital complexity, and then via use cases, aggregated 8 years, data governance, monitoring business value delivery, and enabling AI, and then the people part, where I talk mostly about that in my lesson learned. So the context is that we are all in a global increasing complexity, and that is due to many things. I don't want to enter those geopolitical considerations. There are also resources issue. We all know it, global warming, supply chain issue with this channel being blocked by a supertanker and so on. And we see how our current system is fragile and complex. And among this complexity, we have the digital complexity that is definitely touching many people in our domain, having to deal with vast amount of data, millions of pages, records, system complexity, mapping complexity, and it's increasing by the day. So the result here is leading to many individual issues, burnout being some of them, but also making sense of our business, how we cope with this complexity. If we are not touched by the complexity, that's okay, we ignore it. As soon as we are touched by it, we all react differently. We'll all have different brains, different cognitive abilities, and the more complex it becomes, the more difficult it is to take decisions and take responsibilities and having any risk-based approach. Why is this digital complexity and to whom it benefits? So there is this term that I call techno-messianism, because when we look at human societies, they have always looked for explanation for the things they didn't understand, inventing gods, inventing cultural concepts to cope with this complexity and the things that they could not understand. And if we couple it now with our economical system, which is centered on individual and success and making money and so on, based on the different philosophies of Kant and Stuart Mill, we go into this huge lucrative business about digital transformation, which is, as per Statista, generating trillions of dollars by 2027. And to whom benefit this business is mostly to the technology vendors. Because in this techno-messianism, the notion of progress after the Second World War has been intrinsically based on technology. With the Industrial Revolution, 1, 2, 3, now we are in the fourth one, technology has always been associated to progress and now is kind of indissociable in the mind of many people. But you have many other progresses, social, process progresses, interactions, whatever. So many systems, and this is what leads to this system centricity, with the system providers making a lot of money selling those systems, creating a huge technical debt, being promoted on selling technologies from external providers, especially in big organizations where the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. I've seen situations where we're paying 3 times the same license to the same vendor company. So these kind of things happen, and of course, the vendors, they benefit from it. So this leads to the data complexity that overwhelmed us. Data, and if we look at this DIK pyramid. Data complexity leading to information complexity, rarefaction of knowledge, dilution of knowledge, and business perplexity. Here I just used the word perplexity because I didn't find a better one to rhyme with complexity, but you know, and sometimes it kills the productivity here, clearly, because people are overwhelmed. They have to use like 12 applications in one day, switching from one application to the others, not finding their baby data in all applications the same way. It's a nightmare. Okay, so how to harness that? Well, we had many talks already. I know I'm preaching to the choir. By the way, I'm trying to attend other conferences that have nothing to do with semantics, knowledge graph, and so on, to preach to other people than the choir. But here, I mean, I will surprise no one in saying that this is our transactional operational layer, the hands, and what I'm proposing is, of course, to have a brain where we have more a descriptive layer. Why descriptive? Because you don't want this layer to interact with the effective layer. You don't want to disturb the routine. You don't want to freak people out by saying, I will change your application, I will change your the things you are used to, the things that makes you an expert, the things that makes you having a social status by being an expert. So you don't touch all of that. You just say, okay, I'm describing your business in a way that I can integrate all this description together and break silos. So this is where, of course, I'm proposing a graph approach because relationships are first-class citizens and open standard, and we can build on it and blah, blah, blah. And we can break the silos. So at design time, of course, you will get inspired by this effective layer and get some knowledge, information, data from it. And on runtime, you will use this descriptive layer as a reference to improve the effective layer. So how you do that? Why you do that? So I said it, relationship are first-class citizen, and this one is probably the most important to me. This descriptive layer, it can be shaped by business people, by experts, the one who knows when the data makes sense. It's not the one who knows how to handle the data, optimize it, do complex SQL queries and merge, integrate system, do the wiring and so on. It's really, you go from a business understanding, an expert understanding, where the people have been educated, they have gone through studies, they have experienced the world, they understand that better than others. Like, you know, doctors are the best to treat you, and no, not a profession. So here you have a business-driven way that describes how the business should be, and then you reconcile it with the physical layer. And this is one place to share knowledge. So this is something that is at the root of what we discussed also yesterday, the FAIR principle. I think one of the reasons why the FAIR principle were not more adopted, and why this common knowledge, common good, the notion of common good has been killed basically by capitalism. And this is more a societal reflection that I have. And this is why at the heart of this knowledge graph adoption, FAIR adoption, it's so hard because people are not interested in having a common good anymore. I mean, most of the people, I say. So as soon as you come and you say, okay, let's share and reuse. Okay, you will have to work a little bit more to annotate your data set that completely fulfills your needs. And this small work, you will do it for me, for others, because I will understand what you are doing, what your data is doing, but you don't need it. Who is ready to do that now while you're in your incentivization in professional environment incentivize you only on personal individual success like capitalism. So very few people are generous in a sense to annotate more their work, their data, using standard metadata so that others can understand it and eventually reuse it. Okay, so how we do that? Usually you have three sources of knowledge, information, data. You have the brains of people, definitely. And this one is the trickiest because this famous tacit knowledge, know-how, that is not encoded anywhere, that is not documented anywhere, but you ask a senior tech expert and the guy is able to tell you, oh yeah, this is how we do things. Okay, but I didn't read it anywhere, so yeah, I know, but this is how we do things. Tables, we know, so here we can do profiling, discovery, we can have, I created because I did not find it. Maybe it exists, but an ontology to encode the profiling metadata of the table so that you know what's in there, and you don't need to open the data set to understand if it's going to be useful or not. And all of that you can use to extract data, information, knowledge from tabular structure, whether they are database or spreadsheets. And of course, you have text where you have legacy NLP, where you can extract the structure, the text, the document metadata, blah, blah, blah. And all of that now, you can improve many aspects of the bullet points that are here using large language model as a new interface to interact with the machines. Cannot yet fully trust them, but you can use them. Okay, so now we go to the use case. So the first use case is an aggregation of 8 years where I worked in pharma industry in Basel, where basically I use KnowledgeGraph to do all of that. So for the data governance, this is the presentation I gave 2 years ago at the KnowledgeGraph forum, and I will briefly go over it. Managing vocabularies, master, reference data, taxonomies, list, obvious. Business architecture, not so obvious, because in the business architecture community, of course, you still have legacy ways of working. Portfolio management for molecule study, project, program, application, especially for IT. Application portfolio management. Usually a graph would do a great job, but they don't use it. All of that can generate as an outcome inventories or catalogs about any business or IT assets that you have and that you want to understand. What do I have in my house? The clinical data mapping integration. This one is the Data 42 study at Novartis, where we're mapping those 25 years of legacy clinical data with a semantic model. Data productization, identifying data domain, data asset, owners, customers, added value, usage, transformation across business process. Everything about 360. Here I'm talking about raw materials 360, but we have also product 360 for regulatory application or manufacturing application. Here it was about material grade, packaging, supplier, and checking, comparing, doing gap analysis, and so on. We have a case now for batch release digitalization, where you have to do a complex mapping between raw material, active pharmaceutical ingredient, bulk, semi-finished when you have the blister, with the package and the label or the leaflet. All of that is a mess. You need to clarify your pipeline. And the case that I'm going to present as well, which is at the heart of all of these guys, because when you come and say, okay, I'm going to use a knowledge graph, the management is asking, okay, what's the return on investment? I want to know the impact, the value. And usually, you know the problems. People complain, I cannot do that. My data is disintegrated. It's a mess, okay? I know a potential solution that I'm presenting, but we don't have a framework in between to make sure that this solution will fulfill my needs, will solve my problem on a fact-based, scientific, methodology-based approach. So usually you have slides, people promise millions of saving, or they claim they have saved XYZ millions. When you ask, okay, how did you come up with this calculation? At best, they come with a spreadsheet, and then you can, well, show me what the source of these numbers, and then it's already void. And at worst, they don't even have a spreadsheet, it's just a gut feeling. Okay, so the data governance I presented 2 years ago. We had a full enterprise knowledge graph with many stuff, semantic basis, taxonomy, vocabulary management. We had domain concept listing, inventory catalogs, verifying metadata, of course, management of ontologies, taxonomies, all of that with unique IDs all over the place, the different data models, conceptual, logical, physical, master data schemas. We had an upper ontology that we built from TOGAF at that time. Now I know that GIST is doing a great job as well. A governance ontology that we created from scratch for data governance based on the DAMA, the DMBOK, and some monitoring our use case. This is related to this added value. So you have the paper since the last presentation 2 years ago. We published it in archive. You have the link here. You can have a look if you want to know more. The business value monitoring. So this is where I was not finding anywhere taxonomies for KPIs, different KPIs, business KPIs, solution usage KPIs, solution development KPIs, and linking those KPIs to a measure, to objectives that are given by user stories and given by a business owner that works with a digital product owner to make some product that has product features, because we work agile, so we are linking those product features with Jira tickets and so on. And by doing that, I'm not fully, but I'm starting to be able to automatically basically expose these complex nets of relationship between somebody having a problem, coming to us saying, can you help us with this digital solution? And then linking actually this demand, the role of the business owner with the requirements, storing everything, linking with the product feature that we develop in agile cycles, with the KPIs that management will use to measure how we add value to the organization. So it's improving by the month, I would say, because it has to improve, but it's not yet perfect, but we're almost there. So out of this thing, of course, I'll preach to the choir, so you can create forms directly out of the ontology to capture new project, you link it to the objectives. So here I'm linking my objectives to my team, to the department objective, to the division objective, to the corporate objective, to the business strategy. I try to do that. And the piece that I'm missing now is to link what we do, the added value, the calculation via the KPIs of the monetary value of what we do, to the financial statement, namely the profit and loss. This one, I'm still there. I'm not yet there, but I'm working on it. So we have those forms, of course, and of course we generate reports automatically out of that describe the objectives, how it links, everything is linked, hyperlinked everywhere, it's a graph, you know that. We capture the user stories, very important because this is the basis on what we are doing our job, on the complaints, the requirements, and we are even doing NLP on that. So when somebody is coming to me as a regulatory expert, I want to train concept in my regulatory submission question and answer document, we automatically extract some concept out of these user stories and link it already to the graph, to the different concepts that we have. We generate a model, kind of a conceptual model in the graph from the concept that we extract from the user stories. And with this model, then we generate report and we report the user stories, and this is where we link and we do some dashboarding, trending, charting, whatever. And then we have an integrated report of all the use case individual report where we show the impact in money saving here with the range. So this one we could not click, but ideally we could click it and we explain the range and how we calculate it, and we treat the KPIs it's linked to which product, features, user query, and objective. And here this is an example of how we link our use case in green here to the corporate strategy objective here. So we have the full lineage, and if they ask me, how do you contribute to the success of Roche? I just say, have a look here. Okay, so this is a repetition, a small repetition of what I presented yesterday. Now the fourth use case is enabling AI via graph RAG, so some people have talked about it already. This is a slide that I showed yesterday. Normal RAG. You do your embedding in vectors, you do some similarity matching, you feed it to the neural network. The neural network is generating text, and then the interface can be a Q&A chatbot or a text writing assistant or authoring assistant. Now, the graph RAG part, which is upstream here, is the interesting part that will bring many advantage to the LLMs. Why? Because you will densify your information, remove the noise, so increase the signal to noise. You will personalize the answer of your LLM because you will feed your taxonomy, your jargon, your enterprise vocabularies and list. You will make it fit for purpose for your use case because if the graph contains already the information that I showed you before with the user stories, all the context around your use case, the answer will be also more specific to your use case. And eventually there are some papers from data.world and so on showing that you reduce hallucination, you improve the accuracy of your LLMs if you feed it with a graph and if you ground it with a graph. So basically you will send the query to the LLM, and in parallel to the graph, you will retrieve from the graph an answer as facts plus some context around the answer, and you feed all of that as a prompt here to your large language model, and you get your outcome. So very, very practical, and I'm going to be brief. This is a collaboration with EPFL and the work of one of our students. We identify which LLM is fit for purpose out of the box to generate triples, to generate a graph. So we had several of them. We were checking here the precision recall F1, the subject error, the object error for triples when we were asking to create triples as an outcome. We identified some errors here, and eventually we selected this Mistral 7B as the best model to create a graph out of a corpus of documents. So I didn't mention it, but the vision is the following. You have a pipeline where you input two things, a corpus of documents, so millions of pages, and an ontology. And you want one thing as an output. You want a knowledge graph, a turtle file or triples, that corresponds to the knowledge that you extract from the corpus based on the ontology. So if you have 2 million pages, you can extract regulatory knowledge or safety knowledge or clinical science knowledge or different domains of knowledge that are specific to your use case, your question, your UI, your application downstream. So we want to do that so at some point dynamically. We are not able to do it yet. So I'm going to accelerate a little bit and go to the last part, which is the lesson learned. So the deliverable, we created a new training data set because we had to go for fine-tuning because the out-of-the-box was not satisfying enough. And actually, we tried several ways without fine-tuning, with this one-shot learning, several-shot learning, and so on. We trained the model. Eventually, the grain curve is the model that is learning the best. And this is what we came out with, a pipeline here, what I was explaining. You take a corpus, a prompt, a query, a corpus of documents, and an ontology, and then you generate a graph at the end with some variability here in the pipeline where you can have different strategies to build the graph. Okay, so lesson learned. The title was Universal Enablers. So are they really? I mean, when we look at the Gartner, and especially what Aura showed this morning, they are even more assertive now about that, is that it's definitely supporting many things, but not only the red arrow at the center, but many of the other points in the radar, you can achieve it better and oftentimes cheaper and faster with the knowledge graph. But still, it's not widely adopted. So my quest has always been why. And we can see that all the traditional structure are still RDBMS all over the place. The documents and the tables, people do some matches using NLP, and then they match the documents with the tabular data set via multiple Excel files, always the same story. So why is it not accepted? And in my experience, in most of my lessons, it's, of course, as usual, about the people. So first, I think it's important that the people, and in that case, the decision maker, they have to recognize there is a problem. Ideally, they have to feel the pain, which is most of the time not the case because they are above the glass ceiling and they don't feel the pain at the grassroots level. So when I come to them and I say, I ask the question, do we have a problem with our data, information, or knowledge management? Well, I have different answers. The first is I don't care, I don't know, digital is not our core business. Most of the time, this is the answer I get. The second answer is no, we don't have a problem. Well, that's fine, we'll single shot fix it, and we'll throw people, money, technology at it. Fine, okay. In that case, usually I don't work with these guys because no, it makes no sense to me. And then they are the ones saying, yes, we do. But we won't do anything about it. I mean, we are still, business is still profitable. We can live with it. That's fine. Why changing? And then they are the one who said, yeah, we can try to do something about it, but, and then there is a whole list, and these people usually are right. It's not easy. Change routines, processes, it's really hard. And then they are the one who feel the pain. Yes, I feel the pain, I will do something about it. And this is what Bezos and Amazon have identified as the ideal guys to be the single thread owners, top down, to make the things happen. These guys are really rare, especially when we ask them to understand graph theories and link data and system centricity versus data centricity. And why the answer is often no. So in my experience, when I ask the question, the people sometimes don't have the skills or the knowledge or the experience. So I say, okay, but let me explain you. Let me present you. use case, showcase, examples, facts, numbers. Oh, I don't have time, okay. Oh, the learning curve is steep, it's too much of an effort, or I have other more important priorities. And then I say, okay, but then you have to trust me. I can do it for you. And this is where it stops usually, because it questions the expertise of the decision maker. And the decision maker has to admit that, okay, I don't know, so I let someone else do the job. Really hard, really rare. Or the decision maker is completely risk adverse. And usually in risk adverse business, you have a risk adverse culture which hires only risk adverse people. So they will not take any risk innovating, changing the routine or whatever. Other reasons why they say no is because people answering they see you as an unrealistic person, a dreamer, okay? And maybe what you say makes sense, but you cannot align with the incentivization framework. It's not aligned with their personal success, which has to be quick, short-term, visible. And usually what is visible is the UI, the UX, the user interface, the shiny, the sexy stuff. The dirty stuff in the background, the data management, and nobody wants to see it. And the other possibility is that they see you as a threat to an established order, established routine from which they benefit, because this order has made them expert. So if you change the environment that has made some people experts, they will lose this expert status. So of course, they understand what you say, but they see you as a threat. So they don't want to even try to improve, change the system. So I went through a decision tree, an example, very basic. So do you trust Gartner expertise? Yes, no, usually it's a yes. Do you understand how knowledge graph can add value to your business? Yes, no. Okay, would you dedicate time and effort? Yes, no. Would you implement yourself? Okay, then you have to trust me. Would you understand that implementing technology is not enough? Very important. The techno-messianism, technology is not enough. It's the least of the problem, actually. Would you commit to break free from IT if IT is not supporting? Would you commit to be the single thread owner, and at the end of the day, the percentage of people coming to the red box are below 0 or below 1? There is a problem also with system thinking. And we see that right now as well with societal issue, global warming and so on. Experts come with solution in silos. No question. Brilliant people having silos expertise, siloed solution. It's really rare to have people thinking the global system. It's too complex. And it necessitates specific cognitive abilities. And they all come with their solution, their understanding, their perception, which is not wrong. It's not that the sum of the solution doesn't mean that you will have an exhaustive solution. And then you have also this global stress and geopolitical stuff. When resources are declining, animals are more, ring-fencing their territories, their resource, they retract themselves. Anyway, it's well known. And the usual innovation adoption curve is shifting, basically. The gap is increasing. The skeptics invade the conservative invade the pragmatism. Who wants to innovate here? So you want me to stop for the question? So I will stop there then and not go to the end. So this is the second learning for us, basically. It's important to understand that explaining is not enough. We are lacking, and me included, cognitive science bias, psychological, rhetoric, storytelling. All of that would render our task much easier. And changing paradigm is the most difficult stuff for human beings. So we need to change our approach. And I will stop here because the conclusion is anyway repeating that.
Thank you. So we have time for one question while I switch laptop, so that fits.
Thank you. It's not a question, so maybe some other audience can have the chance to ask a follow-up question. I just want to share a little bit from my side, because I have the similar question to ask it to a client. Why? Because knowledge graph was obviously adding value, but he was not so into buying this solution. So I asked him why, and he told me he doesn't. He's more paying attention to competitive advantage, whether a tool is going to give him or not. And if something is going to help him gain more market share or generate revenue, he would for sure make a decision from day one. But just for saving employees' hours, it was not so incentive to him. So competitive advantage was something I learned from him. So maybe another question.
It's really hard to prove it proactively. It's just a claim that you have. It will give you some more market shares.
Yeah. So I really don't know. I just want to share his answer to that question.
Thanks.